Paul Merski, he is with the Independent Community Bankers of America, and I wanted to talk to him because there's a lot of independent banks that are now saying, you got to stand with us, please. Stand with your local banks and stop the IRS and the federal government from putting this new onerous restriction on these banks. Welcome. How are you, sir?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
So, Paul, tell me what the government is doing and why it's important to stand up against it.
Well, a lot of people really have a hard time keeping up with what's going on here inside the Beltway in Washington, D.C., and we're sounding the alarm bells on this crazy, onerous proposal from the Biden administration, the Treasury, and now Congress is implementing this to have banks, every bank in America and credit union, report on people's financial transactions. They want to know the inflows and outflows of your savings accounts, checking accounts, loans, any money you're moving into and out of accounts would be tabulated and sent into the IRS, any amount of $600 or more. And, you know, they may adjust that amount, but they're measuring flows. This is a massive invasion of privacy that we've never seen before. Financial privacy will go right out the window with this new IRS sleuthing and snooping on everyone's financial accounts.
I hope. Go ahead.
What they're basically saying is that we assume every American is a tax cheat, and we're going to watch all your financial transactions. And this applies to small businesses as well.
So as I look at this, I hope this isn't what America is going to say. But in the past, America has always said about things like this, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. Why should I care?
Well, that's a problem because it doesn't matter what your tax liability, what your situation is. This is really going against your Fourth Amendment rights to privacy, and the way the government and IRS is getting around that, they can't demand this information directly from you. It's against the Fourth Amendment, but they can get it from third parties like banks. We've seen this with, going to phone companies to get your phone records, which they can't get from you directly. So this has got to be stopped. The leadership in Congress is trying to sneak this in, the $3.5 trillion big budget tax.
Is it in the reconciliation bill?
Absolutely.
Oh,
and we've got to alert Americans and customers of banks that, this new invasion of privacy is about to take hold. And, Glenn, the IRS doesn't have a very good track record of keeping people's personal information private as well. There's been plenty of IRS leaks. There's been political profiling of people based on their tax returns. You can't trust the IRS with this massive amount of data on every single American. And plus you have the risk of a data breach, the IRS being hacked and all your personal transaction information is there. It's a crazy proposal. It's got to be stopped in its tracks. And, we're afraid that, people aren't watching what's in this $3.5 trillion budget deal. And these are the kind of things that will come back to haunt us.
So this would allow the IRS to have information that if you wrote a $1,000 or $800 or $600 check to the GOP or the DNC, the IRS would then have that information and that you could become on a list if you are donating to people and you're writing a check for it.
Well, as we've seen, the IRS has a very poor track record of keeping people's information private. There was just a big leak with ProPublica on wealthy Americans' tax returns was turned over to the press. So the IRS cannot be trusted. And really, Americans won't tolerate this profiling of individuals based on their financial transactions. The IRS and the government have no business snooping on people's financial transactions. This is the worst type of profiling. Stop and frisk people. It's going to lead to more audits. It's going to lead to the IRS being tripped up with a lot of false positives. I mean, people have various bank accounts and move money around for all kinds of reasons. Some people are taking care of their elderly parents and use their account, and it's just going to be a dragnet of collecting people's private financial information and turning it over to the government.
And then you have to answer for it. If they see anything they don't understand, then you have to, not only do you have to answer for all the receipts and everything else, you're now going to have to answer for possibly spending that they don't understand or moving things from different accounts.
Well, absolutely. And the IRS is extremely powerful. They could freeze your bank account. They could garnish your bank account. They could demand that the bank send in even more detailed information on your financial transactions. It's amazing already what the banks have to provide to the IRS. Any transaction now over $10,000 has to be reported to the IRS in a currency transaction report. Any suspicious activities, the bank has to legally report to the government, to the IRS. So we don't need this blanket dragnet of sleuthing on every American on their financial transactions. And another thing that is troubling is that a lot of people that recently came from dictatorship type governments don't trust government or the financial system already. You're going to push more people out of the banking system that don't trust government.
So let me ask you one more question. The big banks are for this, and I think the big banks now are kind of in a public-private partnership with the Fed and the United States government. But the big banks are for this. Doesn't this cripple small local banks because of just the reporting on all of this will be just so onerous on you guys, wouldn't it?
Well, absolutely. It's going to be a very burdensome, costly, to implement the computer systems, the monitoring, the personnel you need to keep track of all this. It's preposterous. But, the federal government doesn't care. The Treasury doesn't care. The administration doesn't care. They just want to get after people's money. They want to get after stopping and frisking people and looking at what they're doing with their financial accounts, profiling them. This is the worst type of policy I've seen in a long time here in Washington. And people have to weigh in. People have to speak up and get to their congressmen and senators and say, we're not going to tolerate this new IRS reporting.
And you can do that via banklocally.org/privacy. You can send a member of Congress your message, banklocally.org/privacy. Paul, I've been saying for a while that people should get out of these big banks. I myself do business with a bank, and it's owned locally. It keeps all of its loans locally. It doesn't sell them off. It is truly stand on the community's own. You know what I mean? If people want to get out of a bank, they ask me all the time, what do I look for? And I just say local as you can possibly get. Can you give the audience some tips on what to look for in a local bank that keeps them out of this mess?
Well, you hit on the key points is that the local bank only does well if the local community does well. The money that's deposited in a local bank is turned around and used to lend out to the local community. So it's all part of a symbiotic relationship to keep that small community healthy. And you can go to banklocally.com and look up a local bank and find one. We have 5,000 community banks located around the country. We're in rural areas and urban areas, and it's important to have that personal relationship with your local bank. They're there to help you. We did $1 trillion worth of PPP lending, the Paycheck Protection Program, to help keep businesses afloat. So our banks do over half of all the small business lending in the country. So if you need a local bank, go to banklocally.com and you'll find a local bank you could join up with.
Paul, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Paul Merski, he's Independent Community Bankers of America. It is vital that you speak out against this $600 rule that is being put in. It will weaponize the IRS. It will come back to haunt you. I don't care if you're not doing anything wrong or not. It will come back to haunt each and every one of us. It's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. You have to stand up against it. You can go to banklocally.org/privacy and send a message to your member of Congress and the Senate that this must not be in any bill. It's got to be stopped. It will also really hurt your local bank, and that's where you should have your money. I urge you to put your money into a local bank. Get it out of these banks that are all worried about ESG and their global equity and their partnership with the governments around the world. Get into a local bank. Local is the answer to protect yourself.